Much has been made about the Concepcia and about Israel's military establishment, intelligence establishment, political establishment being ready or not ready on October 7th. Even if the signs were seen properly on the night of October 6th into the morning of October 7th, would the IDF have been able to adequately respond to the threat that Hamas was posing? Some would argue no, because it's been decades of seeing Hamas and seeing the issue on the border in a certain way. So even if you put all the intelligence together that night, there wasn't really much they could have done because they didn't see Hamas as looking to infiltrate Israel at a massive scale. The same can go for equipment. And we need to ask, how is it possible that soldiers are still missing basic equipment over 15 months into the war? And the answer is the Army never anticipated having a war that went on this long, and therefore they didn't have equipment. The way in which the Army had been operating was the more advanced units were getting proper equipment and were preparing for individualized raids. But there was no concept of having to fight in Yehuda v'Shamron, Lebanon, Gaza simultaneously while trying to eliminate a terrorist enemy on those three fronts, maintain order, and free hostages. So with all of these different things going on, how can we possibly expect that the Army and the Ministry of Defense will have put everything together and have everything set? It's not a realistic expectation. So the concept that Israel should have had its act together by now, while the thought is true, in practice, it's completely unreasonable. Because if you're sitting at the desk of the Ministry of Defense, Prime Minister's office, head of the Army, and you're dealing with Syria, Lebanon, Judea and Samaria, Iran, Gaza, and the combat engineers don't have adequate night vision, that's not going to be on the same level as those larger threats. Now, the truth is, for that individual soldier, that equipment is national security because that's what's going to allow him to have the best chance of surviving and succeeding in the role, which is why it's so important to help these soldiers. But from a systemic level, Israel had never planned for something like this, so it's unreasonable to think that they would even have the equipment situation fixed within 16 months because it's a much bigger core issue. And it needs to be understood that way, not just, oh, there were temporarily things missing. There's a much bigger systemic issue that's going to go on for years, if not decades. And it's important that people that know about the situation are able to help and help these soldiers succeed in an effective way.